Good morning, all you music lovers out there. My name's Andy Rodriguez, also known as the Blackspinner, and welcome to my channel. Welcome to episode 16. I believe it's 16. Either way, we are on the letter L. And if you're new to my channel, what we do here is that we go through my albums in alphabetical and in chronological order. So we are now on the letter L, and the letter L is going to be supported by LL Cool J, John Lennon, Los Lobos, Lynyrd Skynyrd, and everything else that I have in my collection in between. And I will be going through each album, and I will be mentioning each different album. I will be mentioning different album cuts on here, different songs that jump out to me, but that some people might not be aware of, so that maybe down the road y'all might want to go ahead and check them out, stream them, or whichever way you listen to music, and maybe you'll find new favorite songs by artists you were familiar with or not familiar with. That's what the show is about, learning more about new music. So let's get started. LL Cool J, Bigger and Deffer. Now, this album came out in 87? Yeah, it must have been 87 because I was 13 years old. And I remember this song, I Need Love, was it's kind of like a hip-hop ballad. It was pretty cool. I'm Bad, of course. 357, Break It On Down. And the Doo-Wop. That's pretty cool. This was a Def Jam record. And the inside was just a regular paper sleeve. But yeah, there's the album. And I don't have that much hip-hop or rap in my collection. I've got maybe a handful of them. And that's one of them. And what I have next is Alvin Lee and Company. If you're not too familiar with Alvin Lee, maybe you will be familiar with his band that he created in the late 60s, early 70s. Called 10 Years After, and Alvin Lee is the lead guitar player, and let's see here, how can we describe them? They are a English hard rock bluesy band, which is the way to describe them. That's what they were. They were in the same vein as 10 Years After, and this is one of his solo albums. He did go solo after a while, but he always returned back to the band he helped to create. There's the gatefold for it, and this is a double album. Let's Get Back is a really good track, and there's A Feeling, and How Many Times, and some of these songs can go on for quite a bit. He does stretch out his music forward and goes on some extended breaks there. And what we have next is that we're going to be getting into John Lennon, and the first one I have by John Lennon is the Plastic Ono Band, Live Peace, Toronto, 1968. He played this. I believe it was a concert that was for some type of benefit, and he didn't do that many Beatles songs on here. He did one, which was Your Blues, which was off of the second album of, it was album 2 side 3 of the White Album. And also he does Blue Suede Shoes, Dizzy Mizzy Lizzy, Cold Turkey. I like that song a lot. I've always liked that song, Cold Turkey, ever since the first time I heard it. And we'll hear Cold Turkey pop up some more in his discography here. And Give Peace a Chance. And side 2 is of course by Yoko Ono. Key players here: John Lennon, of course, guitar and vocals. Eric Clapton is on guitar on here, but also is Klaus Voormann. Klaus Voormann has been in the Beatles circles since Germany. And this morning I was trying to figure out, I would like to get a coffee cup that's going to resemble something that I'm talking about here. So I told myself, you know what? I will get this coffee mug here. It's the Revolver coffee mug because of John Lennon, but also keynote Klaus Vorman, who plays bass on that album there, and will play bass on other John Lennon solo albums, also did the cover art for a Revolver. I thought that was a pretty cool. I was like, oh, perfect. And next we have the Plastic Ono Band by John Lennon. And this is a fantastic album. Later on down the road, I am going to do my personal top 20 of my albums. And this might or might not be on there. It's on the cusp of top 20. And there's the back of him as a little boy. And the songs on here are just fantastic. The songs on here you can say are confessional, I guess. Because at the time, John Lennon was going through like scream therapy. It was called Primal Scream. The songs on here are just fantastic. Mother, I Found Out, Working Class Hero, which Green Day does a cover of it for a special John Lennon tribute album, and Isolation. Really good stuff on here. Love, Well, Well, Well. And there's a song on here called God that he goes through a list of things that aren't as important to him anymore as it was before. And one line here I want to read to you. Well, not one line, but there's a piece here that it ends with, he was listing different things that he doesn't believe in. I don't believe in yoga. I don't believe in Elvis. But then he ends it with, I don't believe in Beatles. I just believe in me. Yoko and me. And then he goes on to say that the dream is over. What can I say? The dream is over. Yesterday I was the dream weaver, and now I'm reborn. I was the walrus, but now I'm John. So dear friends, you just have to carry on. The dream is over. Which, I'm thinking, he's saying the Beatles is over. I'm gone solo. My dear friends, let's just move on with life. And his writing, John Lennon's writing when he went solo was very, very deep. A lot of it was very deep. And Klaus Vorman was also on that album. He's on a lot of these albums. Imagine by John Lennon. This will be in my top 10. I will talk about it a little bit more. The songs on here are just fantastic. Let's go with it starts off with Imagine, which is one of his most famous songs, even along with his Beatles songs. That's also, I would say, one of his top 10 most famous songs of all time. Crippled Inside, Jealous Guy is a great ballad. I love Jealous Guy. It's so hard. I don't want to be a soldier. I don't want to be a soldier, mama. Give Me Some Truth, which has George Harrison on guitar on here. And Give Me Some Truth is a really good song. Oh My Love and How Do You Sleep, which is a song. A lot of people say that it was aimed at Paul, but he denies it. So, I guess just listen to the song and think and pick for yourself. For me, it's blatantly about Paul, but that's just the way that I hear it. So if you want to hear it and have your own opinion, it's John Lennon, How Do You Sleep? Maybe you'll be able to scream it. And How and Oh Yoko. And yes, I did name every track on this album because it's fantastic. It just is. It's great. And when he came out with that album, people were on edge to hear, wow, he's been doing so good solo. What's he going to do next? And this is what he does next. John and Yoko, Plastic Ono Band, Sometime in New York. This is a double album. And it might not be to everybody's taste. It's a protest album. It's the protest of wrong of several leaders in certain groups that were arrested, and John and Yoko are very blatant about the people The songs are okay. I'll get to a couple of songs in just a moment that are very interesting. The songs on here that I like are New York City, John Sinclair, Born in a Prison, which was a Yoko Ono song. I know sometimes her voice can get a little out of hand, but sometimes her voice is needed for certain songs. And Sunday Bloody Sunday. And that side, that's the first disc. The second disc is a live album, which is very interesting. Because if you're familiar with, well, I'll just show it to you because you'll figure it out. Frank Zappa and the Mothers and John Lennon and Yoko Ono and the Elephant Group band. What was that band called? Oh, with Elephant Memory are on side 3 and 4. So Frank Zappa is on here with John Lennon. And it's kind of a freak out at times on side 3. It's worth checking out if you like Frank Zappa and the Mothers. And, along with John Lennon, which is an interesting pair. The Beatles always looked at Frank Zappa with great admiration in the 60s, so that wasn't too far away from what you would expect. It really isn't, because Frank Zappa and the Beatles were friendly to each other. It's not like big bands of today that talk mess about each other. Next, but that's for another time. Next is John Lennon's Mind Games. This will be right before his very famous Lost Weekend, where him and Yoko Ono separate, and he goes to LA and really burns Hollywood down with his party ways when he's out there with Elton John, Alice Cooper, and so many of his buddies out there. Mickey Dolenz for the Monkees being one of them. But let's get back to this. Let's get back to this music. I try not to talk about these artists and these bands' personal life. Just their music, just their triumphs. If you've noticed that's all that I enjoy talking about, is just their triumphs in music and not their personal life. Let's see here. Mind Games, just tight as One Day at a Time, Intuition, Only the People, in Meat City. That's some pretty good stuff. That's about six or seven songs that I just named off this album. Now, one thing about John Lennon is that, yeah, he did have a couple of songs that hit the radio, but he also made a lot of rock songs. A lot of songs that were very unconventional. But when it comes to the world of rock, there's no such thing as unconventional. When it comes to rock, it's such a broad palette that these musicians and artists can work with. So a lot of these songs did not make the radio because it didn't fit the format at the time. But it was kind of like an alternative of the mid-70s. And what I have next is Walls and Bridges. And I had talked about, well, no, I did not talk about it, but he did a lot of drawings, a lot of arts. In fact, my wife and I have gone to one of his art gallery displays. It was a traveling one that came to Houston. It's pretty cool. And right here is one of his drawings. It tells you, how old he was when he drew these. Also, in the inside, where was it? I know I saw it somewhere. Oh, the back is very playful too. It's pretty neat. And then you can change them to whatever you want. You want them smiling, you want them to stick your tongue at you. It also has an inside. John Lennon was just a fun guy, Oh yeah, and the inside has his different art from him being a child, and also has the lyrics, which is really neat, they really did a good job in the packaging of this album. And I still haven't gone through the songs. And I liked this album. I heard it recently, and it is pretty good. Going Down on Love, Whatever Gets You Through the Night was a number one hit for him. It was his first number one hit as a solo artist. And Old Dirt Road, Bless You, Number 9 Dream, Stealing Glass, Nobody Loves You When You're Down and Out. Don't let that be confused with Nobody Knows You When You're Down and Out, because this is a different song. It's not a cover. And also, I want to add Ya Ya in here. It's a very light song. It's probably about a little over a minute, and it's not, he just yeah, and it's a fun song. But key note is that his son Julian must have been, maybe Julian was born 63, 64. This was about 10, and he plays drums on here, and John is on piano. I thought it was a nice moment on the album to have his son play on there. And then that would be the beginning of one of he's starting to get into early retirement. I was going to say I was not going to get into his personal life, so I'm not. John Lennon, Rock and Roll. This was a covers album of 50s rock songs that were inspired to him and the Beatles. And back in the 70s stuff, there were a lot of these that came out. One comes to mind, David Bowie, Pinups. John Lennon, Rock and Roll. Bebop Delua. His version of Stand By Me is really, really good. I really enjoyed the version of Stand By Me. Ready, Teddy, Rip It Up. You Can't Catch Me. Ain't That a Shame. Sweet Little 16. Peggy Sue. Yeah, I really like this album. I didn't like it at first, but since, my taste of music has really changed in the past 10 years, maybe the past 15 years, where songs of the 50s, I've really gone back and really gotten into the meat of where rock and roll came from, and it's really good to hear it also done by John Lennon. John Lennon takes good care of it, really respects it, and doesn't do anything out of the ordinary to say, hey, this is John Lennon, I'm doing this. No, he gives it very good respect. And Rock and Roll by John Lennon. Just stream it if you can. And this was a compilation that came out, Shaved Fish. This has all of his solo hits, which is fantastic. And when I was a kid, when the movie Magic came out in 88, 89, there was also a double album that came out at that time. I don't know whatever happened to it. I wish I still had it. But it had his greatest hits as a solo, and also his greatest, well, not greatest, but it had a great handful of sample of John Lennon sung Beatles songs on it. And I wish I had it still. Give Peace a Chance, Cold Turkey, Instant Karma, Power to the People. That's a great song. Power to the People. And Mother, and Woman is of the World. Imagine, Wherever Gets You Through the Night. Mind Games, Dream Number 9. And Happy Christmas, The War Is Over. I love to hear that song every Christmas time. That is my favorite. Well, I don't want to call it a Christmas carol, but yeah, I love that. Happy Christmas, The War Is Over. I think it's fantastic. And this would be his last release while he was alive. Unfortunately, he was shot dead December 8th, 1980 by a fan that John so graciously befriended, gave him an autograph, chit-chatted with him, and then the man came back to kill him a few hours later. For a while there after, he said that the killer said that he wanted everyone to know his name, and that's one of the reasons why he did it. And for a long time, the press did not mention his name. Double fantasy. I'll let that stand there for a little bit. Look how in peace he is with his life. And not just on the album cover. The songs on this album just talked about... It's kind of a sad album because it talks about the future and how happy he is about the future and about how happy he was of getting back into the studio to start working, because this was his first album since '74. So there was a 6-year period of he didn't have of new material, new original material. And the songs on here, let me read them to you. Half of it is Yoko, the other half is John, which unfortunately I wish it was all John, because the John songs on here are some of his best ever. Just like Starting Over, I'm Losing You, A Beautiful Boy, Watching the Wheels, and Woman. Man, those songs, if you just want to skip the Yoko ones, go ahead and just put these on by John, and you'll hear the lyrics of the future and of being optimistic of what's to come. And unfortunately, he was gunned down in front of his home and at the Dakotas, New York City. And when I went on vacation to New York, I did go to Strawberry Fields Forever, which is, well, I think it's just called Strawberry Fields, which is a part of Central Park that he would go and visit. And my wife and I and our dear friends Melody and Jeremy did go to the Dakotas, and that's it. And this was a release after he passed away, of course. Milk and Honey. There they are in Central Park. And I believe that's the Dakotas back here somewhere. I think. There's the inside of it. And the songs on here, I'm Stepping Out, I Don't Want to Face It. Nobody told me there'd be days like these. Nobody told me there'd be days like these. Strange days indeed. Most peculiar, mama. Yeah. I know I'm spending a little bit of time on Lennon, but you know, he deserves it. He really does. Let me get back to this. Grow Old With Me. You know, these songs that he was writing at the time, he was looking so much to the future. Next, I have the second album by Living Colour. I don't have the first one, Vivid. Vivid is a good hard rock album. This one is a little different. It's still hard rock, but man, they stretch out the funk, and they really do different genres on this album. And let's see here: Love Rears Its Ugly Head, History Lesson, Pride, Somebody Like You, Elvis Is Dead, Under Cover of Darkness. Yeah, this is a good album. And here's the inside of it. And I think this is gold, yellow or gold or whatever you want to call it, see-through. You see? Yeah. It's pretty cool. It plays very well. I think I bought this one for $1 somewhere. I'm not too sure. I don't remember where, but you know, this is when they really started to get into, you know, they were stretching out. You know, after Vivid, after a band has such a massive first album, they're pretty much given permission to do whatever they want, and Living Colour really did take advantage of that. And what I have next is Shady Lopez from the 60s. He is a guitar player, and he's really fun to listen to. And he does quite a bit of covers on here. It's recorded live, and it's got like that Copacabana kind of feel to it. And this is part 2. He's got part 1, and this one's part 2. Recorded live at PJ's. The songs on here: "Oh Lonesome Me," which is an old country song by Don Gibson. Also, Neil Young will do a cover of "Oh Lonesome Me." That's where I know of it more. which I like that song a lot. If You Want to Be Happy, Heart of My Heart, Walk Right In, Lonesome Traveler, Goody Goody, and Kansas City. Kansas City is a great song. The Beatles also do a cover of Kansas City. But this is such a lively album. It's so fun to listen to. It's like you're there with him. You're just having a good time. Trini Lopez, he's really fun. Check it out. And to kind of fall in the same vein that Trini Lopez. Well, maybe I shouldn't have said that because that's not fair. Los Lobos, How the Wolf Will Survive. And the songs on here, let's go through them. The lead guitar player on here needs to be mentioned, David Hidalgo. He's fantastic. Don't Worry Baby, A Matter of Time, Our Last Night, Serenita, Norteña. Now, a couple of these songs are going to be in Spanish. They do rockers, but they also do traditional Spanish songs. And that's Los Lobos for you. Little King of Everything and How Will the Wolf Survive. This is a great album. I think this might be their debut album. I'm not too sure. It was released by Slash Records. I mentioned Slash Records because it was such a premier record label back in the 80s that I don't know they're still around, but they took a lot of chances and they came out on top of those. Also, another Los Lobos, By the Night of the Moon. This one is a little bit more dense, a little bit more slower than How Will the Wolf Survive. Shakin', Shakin' Shakes. Is This All There Is? My Baby Is Gone, and The Mess We're In. And this ends with a burner called The Tears of God. There's the back of it. Los Lobos, they're a really good band. Very underrated. They're not underrated in the realms of musicians and of music lovers, but they could have been bigger because the majority of people think of them as this album here, the La Bamba soundtrack. Now, I will have an episode that will have just soundtracks, but I believe that this one belonged here. This one here, I say that because most of these are performed by Los Lobos, which they perform all of Richie Valens' songs on here, like La Bamba, Come On, Let's Go, Ooh, My Head, We Belong Together, and Donna. Summertime Blues here is done by Brian Setzer. And if you remember, Brian Setzer was also from the Stray Cats of the 80s, the Stray Cat strut. And Los Lobos also does Charlina. Yep, this is a really good soundtrack. Not just that, it's a great movie. It's a great movie. I remember my grandmother loved watching La La Bamba. She just loved watching that movie. Also, here's another soundtrack, but I believe that this belonged with the L's because it's done by just one band, The Lovin' Spoonful. Unfortunately, this is the only Lovin' Spoonful I have. I need to get more. I really enjoyed their California pop rock. And this is an alright album. And, yeah, this is alright. I'm not going to mention the songs on here because I don't know them that much to say, hey, these are great, these are great. But John Sebastian does one of my favorite songs. He does the theme song for Welcome Back, Kotter, if you remember that show from the late 70s. And also it starred a very young John Travolta. And during that time when John Travolta was on Welcome Back, Kotter, he was also making Grease and Saturday Night Fever at the time. I always call it Saturday Night Live, but it's not that. Okay, and last but not least, a band that starts with LY. Of course, they're going to be last. Lynyrd Skynyrd. Here is their debut album, pronounced Lynyrd Skynyrd. There's the back of it. And what a great debut album this is. There's the inside of it with the lyrics. And this is also one of the best debut albums in my opinion, because sometimes it gets overlooked. But I Ain't the One, Tuesday's Gone, Give Me 3 Steps, Simple Man. Man, that sounds like a greatest hits album, doesn't it? Things Going On, Poison Whiskey, and it ends with Freebird. You know, people think of it as a joke when you're at a concert. Say, hey, play Freebird. Man, sometimes I wish that band would play Freebird. I love that. That's fantastic. Sometimes, yeah, please play Freebird. What I have next? This was their third album. Nothing Fancy. There's the picture of the guys in the band. That's the back of it. And the songs on here. This is their third album. Saturday Night Special. I'm a Country Boy. Cheating Woman. Also. Made in the Shade. Am I Losing? And Whiskey Rock and Roller. Man, they don't get enough credit for the songwriting that Ronnie Van Zant did on here. They don't get enough credit for that. What's this? Oh, I'm a sucker for the double live album. One More for the Road? One More from the Road by Lynyrd Skynyrd. Double album. Check it out. That's pretty awesome in there. And when you hear this album, you feel you're in a little, no, not a bar, but like a little like a ballroom-sized place. There's beer everywhere, smoke everywhere. You're sweating and you're loving it. Working for MCA. I Ain't the One. Tuesday's Gone. Saturday Night Special. Sweet Home Alabama. Give Me 3 Steps. Call Me the Breeze. Oh, and T for Texas. That's one hell of a rocker, man. T for Texas. The Needle and the Spoon. And this ends with Freebird. Freebird is already a song that's extended, but man, live on this album is just, it's special. It is. And then they end it with their last studio album, Street Survivor. I know there's an alternate cover with the flames in the back. You all know the story of Lynyrd Skynyrd, how some of them perished in a plane crash, and I have, that album's not hard to find. They've got it around. You can find it, but I choose not to have it. I don't want it. Just don't. So the songs on here are which, it's their last album, and, the cover, people make a big deal, but you gotta hear the songs on here. What's Your Name? That Smell. You Got That Right. I Never Dreamed. Ain't No Good Life. Man. Yeah, Lynyrd Skynyrd. Oh, there's nothing else inside. But yes. And it even tells you right here, this album has been previously released by MCA Records under a different jacket artwork. Yeah, it sure is, and it's available, but like I said, I choose not to have it. But yeah, I like that. I like this album cover better. The guys just hanging out, Well, that concludes my section for the letter L. I hope that you will join us next episode, because I left somebody out that starts with the letter L. Who can that be? Oh, Led Zeppelin. So I will have a whole episode devoted to Led Zeppelin, and I hope that you join us. Once again, thanks a lot, and also leave a comment, and also subscribe to my channel, and take care of yourselves, take care of each other, and also keep on rocking. Take care, guys. See y'all next time.